Hey everyone, welcome to Patriot Reader's Soapbox, where I give you my commentary on the news of the day, supported by the Wall Street Journal. First up, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, otherwise known as Bibi, he has been indicted on corruption charges, but not actually convicted yet. So this is just the latest in the latest big debacle in Israeli politics right now. So we have obviously the corruption charges, and then there's already been two elections this year, sort of like in England, and they're headed towards the third because the last election ended with the race being too close to call. So, according to the law, first they gave Netanyahu a chance to form a coalition government. He failed. Now his opponent, Benny Gantz, has a chance. I think it just expired. So, and he failed. So now Parliament has until I believe December to make another selection for prime minister, who will then be voted on by the people in March. So yeah, Israel's politics are disastrous, being hit by missiles from Gaza and from Lebanon constantly. So Israel's not a great place to be right now, I think. And then last year, the Supreme Court ruled that public sector unions cannot force non-unionized employees in the same field to pay union dues, because that was a practice before. Unions raised money like whether you were in the union or not, you still have to pay dues. Now, however, according to the Supreme Court in 2018, you don't have non-members cannot be coerced into paying dues, which led to a dramatic drop in due payments and membership. Like the Washington Federation of State Employees, they lost fees for nearly 7,000 non-members, and nearly 5,000 workers resigned their memberships. And so the losses represent a 27.4% drop in workers contributing either fees or dues to the union, which took in $3.2 million less than the prior year. And the Ohio Association of Public School Employees lost 448 workers, like they resigned from the union, and another 1,700 decided not to pay anymore. So yeah, they're losing the unions are quickly losing a lot of money. For the record, why do unions need dues anyway, right? I mean, they're just groups of workers. Do they really need money? Money's just going to fatten their own pockets. I mean, I think it's wrong to like workers that make so little anyway. Why extort dues out of them? So good on the Supreme Court for ruling that they can't be forced to pay dues anymore, right? And then, as I said before, FDR himself, one of the liberal heroes, he's pretty much in democratic progressive sainthood. He actually opposed public sector unions because they can hold the government hostage, and they do. Case in point, how Chicago and then Illinois broadly, and then Los Angeles and California broadly have a lot of teacher strikes. They constantly get their pay and pensions bumped up and plunge those states and cities deeper into debt because they can hold the city hostage. They can hold the state hostage. It's insane. Because unfortunately, when Stop and Shop went on strike in Massachusetts, they're still at the retailers. You go to instead of going to Stop and Shop, you go to Market Basket, you go to Target, Walmart, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, whole manner of stores available. But there's only one. But for something like the school system, there's only one public school system, really, because it's the same government running it. So if those teachers are if the union's going to strike and they were forced to be in union, that means that the entire school system shuts down, whether those members want to be participating in it or not. So luckily now, it might just be a handful of people on strike from unions this time. The spending bill that was passed recently, aid to fund the government from November 20th to December 20th, was signed by the president. And President Trump has also said that he's going to protect Chief Petty Officer Edward Gallagher, who is convicted of war crimes he's faced with war crime charges after he stabbed a 12-year-old ISIS insurgent in 2017 when he was deployed to Iraq. And so So Trump said that he's not gonna let the Navy take away his trident, which is the trident pin identifies a sailor as a Navy SEAL. So they're not gonna, like, if Trump hadn't done this, then this guy could have still remained in the Navy, just not as a SEAL. But President Trump's making sure that he's a SEAL. And in Trump's defense, the guy took out a member of ISIS. So yeah, like the whole when it comes to fighting terrorists, it seems like the lines are often like blurred. You know what I mean? Like fighting professional armies, lines are more clearly defined, but soldiers often use minors as soldiers, so it's incredibly tricky when it comes to like determining like the legality of fighting child soldiers and how do you treat them. So yeah, it's terrible that they use child soldiers in parts of the world because first of all, you shouldn't slavery is like enslaving kids to fight for an army is just like it's just plain wrong. And like just plain wrong to make kids do that. And then second, how can you fight that? Like you can't. It's wrong to kill a kid in battle. I mean, it's something that I believe the Geneva Convention try to reduce, women and children casualties, but they're soldiers, so it's very, very tricky. I'm hopping over to the op-ed section. There's an article entitled Warren's Medicare Blunder it says last Friday Warren admitted that she essentially admitted that Medicare for all like the immediate passage of it would be a mistake, and so she came up with a new idea. She's essentially combining her old plan with the Biden/Buttigieg public option idea. Like she wants to first create a public option for, like as Buttigieg called it, Medicare for all who want it, and then 2 years into her office, then she'll take away private insurance. So, I mean, one of the main oppositions to her plan in the first place was the fact she's going to rip away private insurance from 170 million Americans, whether it be through her employer or through some other plan. So this doesn't. I mean, so her slogan move. So essentially, her slogan moved from "you can't have like if you like if you like your healthcare then suck it" to "if you like your healthcare then you can have it for 2 years and then suck it." So I mean that's not exactly like a winning slogan, really. If you think about it, it's not a whole lot better. I mean, because a public option, according to some economists, they eventually lead to abolition of private insurance without official government decree, because people have the option to pay taxes that are going to the public option and have private insurance, or just pay the taxes and get public insurance. And so it'll be pretty clear and then eventually everyone will move on to public system, and voila, you have Medicare for all just by, without officially, calling it Medicare for all. It'll still be called the public option, but it'll soon become the only option. Still, she's angered people who didn't like the plan in the first place by saying she's offering a public option, but it's eventually going to become Medicare for all. So it's angered moderates and conservatives from both parties. But she also managed to anger the progressives because now it's sort of now she seems to be sort of a sellout. Like she was initially one of the hardest campaigners for Medicare for all. Like I think she campaigned. It almost feels like she was pressing for it harder than Bernie Sanders, the guy who freaking wrote the plan. But now backing out like this, she seems like a sellout. So it's hard to tell now though if she really will be what she wants, and that is she wants to be the Democratic Donald Trump, because she has that populist style, that excitement, trying to rally up people. She draws big crowds for rallies. I mean Trump's rallies dwarf all their Democrat rallies combined, but still, she gets people pumped up. People and according to polls, people who support say Biden are like, hey Biden. People who support Warren and Sanders are like, yes, these guys are awesome. I so want them to win. People are enthusiastic for Warren, so that's what she's going for. But Medicare for all, and especially the once she said that her plan would cost $50 trillion over 10 years. That's where her support, her support was climbing, and it sort of stopped there. And who knows? Maybe it'll plunge as Buttigieg rises in popularity. Though it's questionable whether Buttigieg is any better or maybe actually worse. Then there's a few more. Then going over to the editorial board page in the op-ed section. First off, there's the as you may have heard out from other sources, is there's a few cases that are lumped together there before the Supreme Court that in some, I don't have time to explain the particulars right now, but in summary, it's can someone be fired? Can you hire or fire people based on based on sexual orientation? Like essentially extending the Civil Rights Act to defining sex as sexual orientation as opposed to just male or female. And so it's a test for Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh because Trump picked them because they were textualists, i.e. people who look at what does the law specifically say, and the Civil Rights Act says you can't discriminate based on the basis of sex. That's it, just as that. So if they're gonna stick to what they've said they're gonna do and what Trump hoped they're gonna do when he appointed them, then they'll say, saying no, people that's not a protected the LGBTQ community. It's not a protected category as defined by the Civil Rights Act, but we'll see. I mean, there's one of the liberals saying, well, you could just redefine. So you could she offered the hypothetical case in which a company fires a woman employee for dating another woman, but woman fired a man for dating a woman. But there's issues with that scenario because it's not really firing on the basis of sex per se. So yeah. Oh, and California actually did something good for once in terms of legal matters. In a 7-0 decision, they struck down the new rule that said that for candidates to appear on the primary ballot, they have to release 5 years of tax returns. Governor Jerry Brown in 2017 said, we're not doing that. That's too far because the Constitution doesn't say that you can add any qualifications for being president. Gavin Newsom, undaunted, however, and the legislature who kept gunning for it, did pass it. And the law was it's clearly aimed at President Trump, who won't release his tax returns. There's no other way to interpret it. Then the California Supreme Court said that their reason for invalidating it was not constitutional issues or anything, but mainly the issue of California voters should have the same primary vote choices as the rest of the country. I mean, different it's sort of different same ends, different means sort of thing. They believe California can't do this, but their reasoning is different. Then finally, there's an article about those freeloading billionaires because that's Elizabeth Warren's new favorite adjective, not evil, hateful, greedy, corrupt, blah 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 blah, for billionaires. But her newest thing is freeloading. I mean, really, they're the people who built most of the wealth in the country. Without billionaires, we would not be nearly where we are today in terms of America's financial prosperity. It says that the point of this op-ed is that private billionaires do a lot more than bureaucrats. It says that the good chunk of the work that's been done, for example, to fight polio, which has been funded by private investors. The Global Polio Eradication Initiative, it's a public-private group, so they're funded by both. 33% of all that money has come from private donors, and the initiative itself has said, we like the private money is great because it's these billionaires choosing where they want their money to go, and a lot of money from bureaucracies get caught up in corruption, fraud, waste, and lining their own pockets, whereas billionaires can just say, here's a check for $1 million, fight polio. And their goal is to make polio the second eradicated disease after smallpox. So, and they're getting close, apparently. So yeah, it says the summary of the article says here is who would do more with $1.08 billion? Bill Gates or Senator Warren? Because that's how much Bill Gates has given to the foundation. So yeah, I would trust Bill Gates a lot more with $1 billion than Elizabeth Warren, because Elizabeth Warren's just gonna either pay for Medicare all, and probably buy, what's she gonna buy with it? Probably what, like bottle like this big of insulin maybe, and a IV. It's probably what Elizabeth Warren's government will spend, just like just because of government waste. Like that's probably what her that billion cover. If Bill Gates is spending that, he could buy like an entire, like several trucks full, even more than that, of the polio vaccine, like just trucks upon trucks shipping out to where it needs to go. That's what I want my $1 billion to be. That's what I want my little share of tax money to go to. Like I do pay taxes, but I'd much rather donate my